Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited for this. I just bought this. If you watched my last video, I just purchased this 1994 Honda XR250L. It won't start because the throttle's stuck, so I need to take it off, see why the throttle's stuck, but I think it's probably the slide in the carburetor. But I'm going to remove this tank, put the factory tank back on, remove this seat, take side cover off. We'll take this off, then we get to the carburetor and see why this is stuck. So just keep watching my videos. I will be posting a lot of stuff of restoring this 30-year-old Honda XR250L. Let's go ahead and take this stuff off where we can get to that carburetor and check it out. As I said, I do have the original factory tank that's in mint condition. I'm going to take this big old ugly tank off and put it back on just so it'll be original. Let's take this off, see what the air filter even looks like. So it does have the air filter in here. Looks like a uni filter. It actually looks good. I don't know if it's oiled. Yeah, it's a brand new uni filter. It's got the cage inside here, which is good. They should have put some grease on this. You always want to grease this before you put it back on there, just to help keep dust out. I'm going to leave this out because I'm going to clean this air box out while I've got this apart. So to remove the seat, we got to take this strap off. There's two 10mm, one on each side. So you take these nuts off, you remove the strap, and then there's two bolts underneath the fender here that actually take the seat off. You see when you remove this, that takes that right off right there. We'll take the other side off. To remove the side cover on this other side, it's a flathead or a 10mm socket. Either one would work on this. Just like that. See how good a shape that's in? Now we got the seat strap off. It's actually a handle for passengers, what this is. So now underneath here, we should have two 12mm bolts right there. And that will take the seat off. Surprisingly, it's actually not even that dirty under here. There is some dirt. But if you look at this around where the wires are and stuff, this is the battery and fuse panel in here. It's actually really clean. For being 30 years old, you can tell they didn't off-road this thing much, if any. Now we can pull the seat off here. So if you look under here, it's actually, this is really clean. I mean, yeah, there's some dirt, probably dirtier under my 300L. I mean, that's actually really pretty clean. Let's go ahead and take the bolts out of this tank, take it off. Got two 10mm bolts here. Let me pull this off now. So there's a little bit of fuel in there. And I can already smell it actually. It actually don't smell bad. I mean, a little bit of oldness to it, but it's not, definitely not the worst I've ever seen. Okay, so here's the carburetor. If I twist that throttle, I can see that the cable's actually trying to move this. So I'm thinking what's stuck is either this throttle shaft here or the slide in the top. So I think what I want to do is try to take the top off. Hopefully I can do this without removing the carburetor. I don't think the carburetor is going to be that dirty for sitting for 5 months. If it is, I'll have to take it off, clean the carburetor. But for now, we'll take the top off, see if we can get this unstuck. And I think what I want to do is remove this little bottle here where I can get to the back screw on the top of the carburetor. There's a clamp on this. Take off the 10mm holding it on the top. That should pull up off there and hopefully give me room to the top of the carburetor. Yeah, now I can get to that screw. Okay, we'll see if we can break these screws loose. That wasn't hard to do. Keep my little magnetic tray over here so I can not lose my screws. All my bolts. Now I can get to this back one easy enough. I think I could just spray something down in here and break this loose. I'm hoping. But if not, I don't think it'd be that big deal to remove the carburetor and actually clean it. I'll know when I run it if it needs cleaned on how good it runs. Raise this top off here. See the top there? The paper gasket. And there's my one screw I don't want to lose. So now I can actually see the throttle mechanism here. and the slide down in here. And this is what's stuck. It's probably that slide down inside here, because the cable's not stuck. It's just not turning this cam right here that raises this arm. You probably can't see it very good, but there's an arm that raises this up. It's not a cable on the top like a dirt bike carburetor, but that's what's stuck, I believe. Let's spray something in there and see. Okay, I have some PB Blaster. I just want a little bit, not a lot, around that slide. And then I want to put some on this shaft. And we'll let that soak in for a little bit. Come at the other angle here, maybe where I can get some on the other side of that slide. Like that, there we go. Okay, so now I'm back. It is sitting about an hour. Let's see if we have to help it along here if I can get my finger in here. But I want to try to rotate this here. It's still stuck. Oh, it's actually moving. So that PB Blaster is working. Oh yeah. Yeah, so a few times of working this, and I bet you that thing's gonna free right up. So I'm actually not sure if it's the slide or if it's this shaft, but whichever one it is, it's definitely freeing up. We're getting lots better now. It's stiff still. I got that up. I'm gonna put a little bit on here because it kind of go down in around it. Might make it smoke a little when I first start it, but that'll be okay. Oh yeah, it's already getting way better. It won't be long. This thing will be totally, it's actually trying to see it's pulling itself back now by itself. Not good yet, but oh yeah. She's free, boy. Look at that. Super sweet. Now that's what I was hoping for. Now, this ain't a fix 100% because if I put it back together and it still runs bad after I get it started, then I'm going to have to take it off, clean the bowl, and clean the slow jet, the main jet, and make sure the carburetor's clean. But so far, we are freed up. We can stick that top back on here now and see what happens. Okay, so let's stick this top back on here now. We know we're good there. Even if we need to take the carburetor off, we shouldn't have to take that top back off to clean the carburetor. Put our screws back in here, which the good part is they're both the same length. Same screw front and rear. Go, top back on. We are good there. Nice. Okay, so we got that cleaned up. Let's try to clean this air box out a little bit. Get some of the crud out of it. It's like I say, it's not horrible. You know, you're going to get dust in here, and then you got oil on your filter that kind of drips out of your filter, and that's what causes it to be stuck in there like that. We get some spray cleaner and spray around in there, but you definitely don't want to spray it into the intake boot. Purple Power Cleaner Degreaser. We'll try some of this. And like I say, you don't want to spray it into the intake boot. So kind of be careful with that. We'll spray some on some of this other stuff, let it soak in. Because I need to clean the bike too, so we want some of it to soak in on some of this other greasy spots. Oh yeah, that's making it come right out of there. It's going to clean up nicely now. A little bit of elbow grease goes a long way. But the dirty part of this is actually the side that doesn't matter. This part in here is not what matters. What matters is if you see dirt inside that boot that goes toward the carburetor, then you have a problem. That means you're leaking air around your filter and getting dust and dirt through around the filter and into that intake boot. You definitely don't want that. And the inside of that boot looks really good, so we've never had a problem there. But you consider this bike only has 1,800 miles on it. I wouldn't think it'd be too bad. Okay, it's looking good in there now. And I just remembered I need to put this back on. Don't want to forget that, or we have an open hole to suck in all kinds of dirt. Okay, so I'm going to stick the air filter back in, and I'm going to put some grease on the surface of this filter, on the mounting surface. You don't have to go real heavy with it, but you do want some grease on there. Basically on these beads is where it seals, and that will help keep any of the dust from coming through around and getting into it. So this looks like a brand new filter. I believe he put this on whatever it was when this thing ran 5 months ago, and he just probably didn't know about that or whatever, but didn't get this grease. It does have oil on it, so it's probably came from Uni pre-oiled. I can definitely see that it has oil on it. And the foam filter factory probably got so deteriorated they had to replace it. This does come with a foam filter. Some people buy K&N filters and put on them, but I'm not a K&N fan, so. Okay, now we got some grease around that. We can stick this back in here. Make sure you get it over properly over the intake, because we don't want no air sucking in around there, no dirt. It's got a little notch inside here on this part here. Once you get it in the right spot, you'll know pretty much, because that little notch will line up with the plastic part on the filter. And you'll be center of that, you know you got it good. So right there, we should be on there good. Should be sealed from any dirt. Okay, now we can go ahead and clean this thing up a little bit probably, and then we'll go ahead and stick the tank back on it. This is your CDI box. If you're not getting any spark, you're probably going to be the CDI box, the coil located right here, or it could be the spark plug. Usually it's one of those. So the snorkel on top of this is located right here. It's basically a plastic snorkel that's riveted on. A person could actually take it off if you want to do that kind of mods. I won't be doing that, but it's not a rubber snorkel like on the 250L and the 300. It's just a plastic top to the box with the intake. Okay, now let's get the gas tank and stick back on here. Okay, so I've drained the gas out of this big fat tank, and I'll just say that old gas, it don't look that bad, but I don't want to chance it in the bike, so we'll just use that in a lawnmower or something, and take this petcock off because I got to put it on the factory tank. And this is a 24 millimeter. Takes this off, and we can also look at the little inlet tube. Boy, it all looks really clean right there. Looks good. I'm gonna take this settlement bowl off, see if there's anything in here too. Okay, so I got the original tank here. I want to take this sediment bowl off here. So make sure it's clean on the inside. Not got a bunch of dirt in it. The gas is actually clean in it. There's just a speck down in there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's one little speck in there. I'm going to spray that out, and we'll be good to put this back on. I don't have any carburetor cleaner at the moment, so I'm just going to use some WD. And that worked beautifully. Clean that dude right out. Ready to put this back on. Stick this back on here. I put this back on. Need to aim it toward the rear like that. The threads are just got a shade of rust on them, so I'm just going to take a little bit of grease, just a light amount, and just put on those threads. They look good. It's just like surface rust from this thing sitting inside the garage for 30 years without this petcock on it. But impressively enough, when I took the cap off this tank, It actually looks absolutely brand new on the inside. It is so clean. I never expected it to look that good, but it does. It looks exceptionally good. Take our 24 millimeter and tighten this back up. Make sure it stays aimed in the right direction. We should be good there. Now we can set the tank back on, bolt it up, put some fuel in this thing. The valve's not stuck, which is good. So off is here. Reserve is arrow pointed toward reserve. On is the arrow pointed toward on. Arrow pointed toward off. Okay, so I'll need to take these rubber grommets out of this tank. They will go back in the factory tank. That's where they come from. I don't see a brand name on this tank. So if somebody has an XR, want to buy a tank, this tank will be for sale. It's in perfect condition. Cap and all, really good condition. If it's an XR250L, probably an XR250 also, I'm sure. So I don't know how many gallon it is. It says XLR-1 on it. Okay, got both those on. Put these spacers back down in here, bushings. And we'll slide the tank on here. Now we can stick this hose back on here. The hose actually looks in good shape. It's soft and pliable. It's not, stiff, which is nice. Slide the little keeper back up there, the little clamp. Like so. We need to put some fuel in here, but I got to go to town and get some. Okay, so let's take this fuel cap off here. Show you what I was telling you about how clean this thing is. If you can see down there, hopefully you can, I don't know. But let me get a light. Okay, look down inside there. I mean, all the way down into the bottom of it too. It's just spick and span. They must have took this thing off when it was new and put that big tank on. Okay, I got some fuel, and I actually went and got premium no ethanol. And I only got 2 gallon because this thing only holds 2.3, so 2 gallon ought to work pretty good. And I don't want to fill it up yet. I want to watch and make sure this don't leak down here. I spilled a little bit out down the tank right there. Somehow. Don't want it running down there where I can't see if that's leaking. I don't think it is. Around where I put the threads on, but as long as that don't leak, we're good. Go ahead and put it all in there. This way I know I got fresh, clean gas in there. And no chances of having any contaminated fuel inside there. I definitely don't want to start off that way. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully the carburetor's not plugged up or the float's not stuck. Okay, so we'll put the fuel cap back on. Now, before we start it, I want you to check the oil and make sure it has oil in it. I haven't checked that yet, so definitely I'm going to change oil, but I want to start this old oil up first. I bet it's not that old. I'm sure they've changed it. It's not 30-year-old oil, I wouldn't think. But I want to check the oil. If it's good, I want to start it with the oil in it, warm it up, then I'll change the oil. Okay, well, check this. Just make sure we got some oil in it. Oh yeah, the oil looks dirty. I mean, it's black. It's not, so it hasn't probably ever been changed. I'm sure this is the original oil, which is 30-year-old oil. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start it up with this oil, warm it up to just thin the oil up a little bit by warming it up, and then I will drain it out and change it, put a new oil and filter in this thing. It's actually, you're supposed to, I mean, the oil is still okay. It is black, but it's not like thick or anything like that. Let's hold it level here. Yeah, I mean, it's still good enough to run on it, and it's not too low, so good enough we can start it up, warm it up, and then change this oil out for some good stuff. Okay, on to the next test that I haven't done. Let's turn the key and see if the battery's, I'm sure the battery's dead, I would think. Yeah, nothing lighting up, so battery is completely dead, which I figured it was, so we need to put a battery in it. Okay, so our battery cover's right here where it says fuse. We need to move these rubber tabs here to pull it open. There's that little bitty 12-volt battery. Is that tiny or what? So let's go ahead, just for kicks, and test to see if there's any voltage on the battery, which I'm pretty positive there won't be. Now, the battery may charge up. It depends on how old this battery is. Yeah, 1.5 volt DC. The battery's dead. Let's go ahead and take this out. Remove this little metal plate here. 2 screws on the battery terminals. One thing about these old bikes, they was simple. There's the battery. Probably no date on it. There's a date code if you knew how to read it, but I don't know how to read it. Now, the battery may charge up, but being that low, probably not. It does look like they had replaced it. It's not original for sure. It's not an original UWASA battery, so it has been replaced at one time, maybe 5 months ago, whenever he bought the bike from his friend. Well, the good part is I just so happen to have a brand new lithium battery. And look at that. It happens to fit right in there. That is so cool. Lucked out on that one. So, this is an EBL 12-volt lithium battery. We'll go ahead and put it in there, and we should be good on power, I would hope. Looks like a perfect fit. Okay. Okay, now let's turn the key on and see if we have power. We have power, check it out. Got a high beam, low beam. There's the right turn signal working front and rear. Left turn signal working front and rear. Horn works. Super sweet. Because now we don't have no, let's make sure this choke works. Good, the choke ain't stuck. I was kind of worried about that. I hadn't even checked it yet, but it's not stuck. So this thing should be ready to fire up. Okay, let's see if this thing fires up. We'll turn the gas on, make sure we're not leaking anything out of the carburetor. As long as it's not leaking. If it is leaking, that means the float is stuck and I would have to take the carburetor off and clean it. Well, I took care of that. I figured that's what was going to happen. We're leaking gas, so definitely the float is stuck. Going to take the tank off, pull the carburetor off, and clean the float bowl out. We'll just about clean the jets and the needle and everything and do it right. So I figured that was going to happen. It's to be expected on something set for a long time. So I'll go ahead and get the tank off, then we'll take this carburetor off. Okay, so to get the carburetor out easily, first thing I need to do is remove this remote for the shock, get it out of the way. Because the carburetor, the cables are on this side, so the carburetor needs to come out this side. Take a 10mm and remove the 2 clamps. I should be able to position this down out of the way, hopefully. Or up out of the way. That will give me room right there, I believe, to pull it right up out of here. I'll have to take the 2 clamps and loosen them top, front, and back on the other side with a Phillips screwdriver. Okay, now that I got them clamps loosened, I should be able to pull this boot back. Hopefully it's flexible enough to pull back far enough to pull the carburetor out. If I get the carburetor back, I can pull the front of the carburetor out and come out this way. I need to go ahead and remove the choke cable. It has a Phillips screw and a barrel fitting. Just go ahead and remove the choke cable because it's going to come out this side. Now it should come out of there. Okay, now that I removed the crankcase vent tube so I can get this remote for the shock out of the way, I think that's going to help me get this out of here. Had to remove that fuel line because it was hitting here. Now she comes out. Now we should be able to just clean this thing up. We'll go ahead and loosen these two 10 millimeters. Just don't move this top one. This one's bottomed out. Don't move that top one. We won't change the adjustment that way. And we should be able to take this cable off and make it a little easier. Okay, now we can clean this thing out, which is what I should have done to start with, but I thought I could go easy, and it didn't work. Let's take this bowl off here and see what's in here. Let's take this bowl off here and see how bad it is. Okay, so we need to spray some of this out with some carb cleaner, hopefully clean that out. Put a little bit in there and let it soak a little bit. I know we're getting fuel through the main jet good now. Don't know if it was plugged or not, but make sure it's clean. I'll do the slow jet here. This is the one that usually will get plugged up because it's a lot smaller diameter hole. Okay, I can see gas coming through it, so it's definitely not plugged up. And I can see daylight through it, so we're good there. Okay, that's looking pretty clean. All right, go ahead and stick these jets back in here. The needle's still rubbery, it's not dried out, so it still should be good. And there's a spring in the button right here. You gotta make sure it works, and it's still working, so we should be good now. I don't think we're gonna leak any gas now. Definitely want to make sure that is clean down in there. Put the needle on the float like that. Set it back down in the hole, and then slide the pin in. Like that. Now there's no adjustment on these plastic floats. Some of the metal floats had an adjustment, you could actually bend the tab, but plastic float don't have that. So if the float's bad, it's bad, you gotta get a new float. You can't just adjust it. The accelerator pump push rod, be careful when you put it in. It goes right down through the rubber grommet into a hole in the carburetor, like that. Turn this back to where it goes. Okay, we're ready to stick this back on. Okay, so put the cables back on the way they came off. Okay, We should be ready to stick this thing back into place now. See if it goes back in any easier than it came out. Probably not. There we go. Go ahead and stick that fuel line on now. Crankcase vent tube back on. It goes onto a pipe on one side of this here and then goes back on the crankcase vent right there. The clamp back on. This hose runs down through behind the engine case. You definitely want to make sure that you get these boots on the front and rear of the carburetor, the intake boot and the manifold boot. Carburetor slid into them good and get them tightened up. And then we got to put the choke cable back in. As I said, it just goes, the barrel goes into a little place over here. You'll see it, it's very simple. And then put the cable back up and tighten the screw. Now we got to clamp this back on. Okay, now we're ready to set the fuel tank back on, hook the hose up, and see if she leaks. Almost. Okay, no leaks. Big thumbs up. So I'm glad I cleaned the carburetor anyway. It needed clean, so let's just go ahead now and kick it over and see if it'll start. But I want to kick it over a few times without the key on because it's been sitting so long. So I want to move some oil around in the engine before I turn the key on and start it. Definitely has good compression. Turn the key on. Don't know if I'll need to choke it or not. We'll see without choking it. We're going to choke it. There it is. Actually, just a few starts after I turned it on, really, after choking it. The motor sounds real good. Oh, I killed it. Wasn't ready for the choke to go off yet. Stick the seat on it, because when I sat on here, I actually sitting on the air box, the snorkel. So I wanted to get some air when I sit down like that. I'm going to try it again. To choke or not to choke? That's crazy how good that is. It's a little cold natured right now. Just got to warm up. Okay, guys. It's good enough for now. Got a lot more things I'm going to do. A lot more videos to make on this thing. It starts. So now I just want to warm it up just a few minutes. And I'll go ahead and change the oil in the next video. And get that out of here. I don't want to run that oil very long because it is old. I'm sure it's original. It's 1,800 miles. And it says 2,000 miles on the oil changes. And I'm pretty sure from the looks of that oil, that's original oil. So 30-year-old oil definitely needs to come out of there. But it definitely looks better with this tank. It looks a lot better with this tank than it does a turbine tank. But the turbine tank holds a lot more gas, and it's a good tank. So thank you all for watching. Click the thumbs up. Subscribe down below. Click that bell icon. You'll get notified when I put up more videos about this and the Honda CRF300L. Catch you all in the next one. Right on.